It's a brand new episode of the Legion After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. We have so much craziness to talk about. We got the Karis, we got Division 3, we got all sorts of things that I can't even explain. Stick around.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello and welcome to the Legion After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. If you have not already, go to youtube.com/AFTERBUZZ-TV. Hit subscribe. We're also on iTunes and SoundCloud. Subscribe there as well. I'm your host, Yael Tygiel. I am joined by lovely ladies on the panel.
It's ladies' night.
It is ladies' night. Kari Lane is here.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be back. You can find me online at Kari Lane. That's Karidlane.
And she's in the live chat, so if you are live chatting with us, Kari's got you. And we have Miss Adrian Snow.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. And that's MSADRINSNOW.
Thank you. Welcome. Hello.
Yay. Yeah.
This is it's like real nerdy ladies.
Yes. This is like the AFTERBUZZ lady nerds.
Lady nerds.
Yes.
Some of the lady nerds. We have a lot of lady nerds here.
There are a lot of lady nerds. It's like us and then
a whole bunch of others.
a whole bunch of others.
Yes. Let's jump in. There's so much to cover. So we'll let the X-Men animated series theme song fade out.
Such a beautiful
This
show.
was the first episode all season, chapter 5, to be in order, like chronological time. We didn't have flashbacks. We didn't have these weird jumps that we didn't know where they were coming from. It's the first time we think it was all chronological.
Yeah.
As much as you can assume it is.
Right. It was the first time it felt that way.
Yeah.
How it feels. Yeah.
Because too many other times it's all over the place and you're like, but you go with it. So it's because you're kind of in David's headspace of like, blah, all over the place.
I always feel like I can kind of understand when we're jumping back in time and when we're in the present time, because they do a good job of wigging David. So I'm like, this is not real, or this is the past. But yeah, in terms of like just sticking with a storyline and me not being like, wait, I have to rewind. What happened? That this was the episode that did that.
Yeah, it's funny that we assume this, especially because of the way the episode ends, which we will get to, but that maybe I'm wrong and it wasn't chronological at all.
The ending of this episode, I'm sure you guys saw me, I did this thing with my hands where I was like, ugh, because
I did see that.
I made a prediction on my own. I'm not even on this panel. I recorded myself because I didn't want to forget it on my phone. I was like, I predict blah, 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 blah. And this kind of played with it and then also in the same time, like, crushed it. So, yeah, at the ending at least.
Oh, exciting. So let's jump in. Let's talk about the Karis, because they have slowly become my favorite part of this show.
I love them.
Their relationship is so cute because they love themselves so much.
And
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because it's one of those like the moment where he's leaning over her and she's on the like gurney or whatever and she's injured, and it's like because we kind of instinctively are like, oh, maybe romantic love of like, you know, together, or at least that was my first. I'm like, but it's not, which I like that it's not, but it's like because you love yourself, it's another version of you in a way.
it's a weird brother, sister, father, daughter hybrid type of feeling for me. Where I'm like, if they kissed, I'd be like, but I wouldn't be like freaked out by it. But I'd be like, I know they're the same person, but are they siblings? Or are they just really literally the same person?
Because it's almost like they're twins in a way. Like when they describe, I love the backstory in that. I was like, thank you. Because we were like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And so hearing it described, I'm like, okay, they're essentially twins, but there's just one body and it's a timeshare.
Yeah.
It's a body timeshare.
I just think it's so great that like he was like, are you ready?
Yeah.
There's like this amazing respect, which when you think about it, if you want to take it this way, it could be this like great message about self-love and like
consent.
And consent. Absolutely, that did also occur to me.
Yes.
I was gonna go there, but then decided not to. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
It's also the female who's the fighter and the guy's the nerd.
Right.
And she's ready to fight. She wants to fight.
Yeah.
She's like, this is my time. And I'm like, yay.
We have this amazing thing where they become one again.
Yeah, you see him
And
take on
he starts
her.
to bruise.
Yeah.
He feels her pain.
Yeah. It's so beautiful,
Which
especially
that's a twin
for
thing
today.
Too. Some people will claim like they've had pain.
The notes from the chat.
Guys, we love your thought process. Because hey, we think about these things kind of too. Eric said, "Can they see each other naked?" This leads up to a lot of follow-up questions.
Well, she did have a commentary about that where she said whatever
the
you guys
bathroom.
do in the bathroom. So maybe they have, but I don't know.
I'm sure, like, when they were growing up,
I'm sure
and, like,
they have
going through
experimented.
puberty, they like investigated each
Yeah,
other.
it's like
They're the
time
same
travel.
thing.
His
Well,
wife.
someone. Hey guys, because it's an adult show. So Seb said it would be super masturbatory if they hooked up.
Oh, I assume that's what they do.
Or at least have in the
You
past.
could? Why? Well, it's yourself. It's
Right.
just it's weird visually because you're like it's a man and a woman, and you would think like your inner self. Oh, actually, it's almost Golden Compass. That's your opposite self is the opposite sex.
Okay.
Did you guys see Golden Compass?
No.
Oh, you're like your soul is the opposite sex of you,
Oh, okay.
and it's an animal on the outside of your body.
Okay.
But that's a whole other interesting thing too. But this is kind of interesting because we look at it and we're like, well, it's different because well, it's a girl and their age is different. But then you're like, no, same person.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just because she doesn't age when she's
Inside
inside
him.
him.
That was cool too.
Yeah.
But I also just love Bill Irwin because he's such a
Yes.
great like comedic and dramatic actor, and he can do no wrong in my eyes.
You know, I
Strangely
really,
attracted to
really
him.
love him on this show.
Yeah.
Yes.
For those who know, I also do the Law and Order SVU after show, and on that show, he plays a therapist but looks like a pervert, and it's very confusing on SVU to have him playing this character.
Yeah.
So the character we see him here, his Kari, is so funny, especially when we're in the silence.
Yes.
And he's like
Screaming the F word.
Yeah. So
Yes.
funny. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, he's so great.
He is amazing.
He's also the voice of the robot in Interstellar.
Oh,
In case you didn't know, FYI.
thanks.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about the White Room.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of people having intercourse, let's talk about the...
David started incepting people, and that was my first clue that I was like, "This is not David," because there's just no way.
No.
I
Like
think it
when
is.
he first brought her, I thought it was him.
I wrote down David using telepathy when he started talking to Melanie, and I was like, "Incepting people," and I was like, "This is not David," and I underlined it.
Oh, interesting.
We could see that discussion, which we can get to in the White Room between him and Lenny, or Lenny / whatever. And there is a trade going on now. I'm sure at that moment with him and oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
Sid?
Oh, sorry, I was like Melanie. No,
Yeah.
Sid in the White Room is David, but I think everything else on the outside of him operating, talking to other people before he goes to D3 is not David. I think that's Homeboy.
Oh.
I wasn't
Early on,
thinking that
because
but,
just the way he moves his body and the way he talks to Melanie about her husband, that's
that
not
was
David.
weird. Yes, that was
Yeah.
weird.
So, okay, so Melanie points out that since he's been back from the astral plane, he is a different person. Now, do you think that he is this parasite now has taken over, or...
I think he agreed to let the parasite take over his physical body and exchange the parasite, who was, I think, holding David's power hostage, essentially, allowed David to create this White Room where he could bring in Sid and they could boink.
Interesting.
I felt he could do the White Room after he had been on the astral plane before they did a better sense of like I can make this space and kind of got that mini lesson of like I can do it. But I agree with the therapy. Somebody was saying in the chat that Vatsal said, I think David's creepy smile from the start gave it away.
Yeah.
And when he starts walking over in the therapy room, that one's Melanie, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Melanie Bird.
Both of us were like, like
There's-
Meg, and I'm
yeah,
like, no.
because-
I agree with you that in that therapy session, that was not David per se. But I think I'm with
I thought the
Kari
White-
that he learned how to make the
Yeah.
White Room
I think
based on what he did.
I think that's the last shot of the last episode is Lenny / Shadow King /
Demon with the yellow
Benny,
eyes.
whatever, all those things.
Yeah.
Putting, like, coming around his shoulder and putting his hand was a way of saying, like, he's going to take control over David's physical body. So the only time we really actually see David, as we know David, is when he's in the right room with Sid. Because he's essentially created that room so he could be with Sid, but he's also, I feel like, kind of it's like a waiting room for him while what's-his-face controls his body.
So I disagree with you. I took that last scene as David escaping and bringing this thing out of the astral plane with him into the physical world.
I assumed that last shot because he was manipulated into going into that situation because the thing knew that that wasn't actually Sid. That was tied up, that it was the eye. That's what I assumed. Okay. And that the reason that he needed David to wake up is so that he could latch on to David in a way that wasn't just in the shadows. Because now that he has the cover of Lenny, David is no longer afraid. He assumes that Lenny is his friend.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying in the chat how his confidence right now is a clear indicator of like, that's not real David. Yeah. Also, I noticed when he's regular David, he has like this like wide-eyed like deer in headlights eyes all the time. And this one, no, it was creepy predator like I thought the white room, it was him, but I felt he went almost a little too fast of like, so we can touch each other. I'm like, oh, you gotta do baby steps. It was a little creepy at first, but I mean, he did the cheek kiss, so I was like,
I was a little bit freaked out as well because I was like, is this just the bad guy taking over David and then just boinking his girlfriend?
I do like your idea that it's his waiting room.
Yes.
Where he's waiting for his body back, and that's where he can be, or that he's being held prisoner there.
Exactly.
I also think that it felt very much like a boy who wants to be with his girlfriend and can't touch her. Exactly. He had to be forward and then realized how bad it was.
Good guy in the chat says, I think he used the demon to get out of the astral plane and has been trapped in the white room ever since.
Oh, nice.
A lot of people are kind of thinking that too, of like the astral plane coming back was bringing it with him.
But I think it also is kind of, I think originally it was an agreement between him and Lenny, David and Lenny, because what they're talking about in the bathroom is that kind of like, well, we agreed to do this together, because that's something that David actually says.
Yeah.
But I think also by the time, when we'll get to that, by the time he gets to D3, David has realized that he's like unleashed something that he cannot control.
Yeah. Interesting. What are people saying in the chat? You look so focused on the chat. Like, I think everyone's saying great stuff.
So we're saying some stuff comic wise and some stuff the show. We're talking about the show, but some people are talking about like references to that.
We will get to
all that stuff later. And we'll let you know spoilers for those of you who want to go la 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 and plug yours.
Yeah, so we're not even close to there. We have still so much to talk about.
But can we talk about the sex in the white room?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because, hey-o, like, can you have better orgasms in the white room because it's your brain?
Right.
Like, can we expand the world of sex in the white room? Because I was just like, God, that looks like, I mean, it's mind sex. It's conehead sex. So, and if you don't get that reference, then you're younger than me.
Well, because he says, he's like, don't you know the brain's the largest erogenous zone? Yeah. Which is true. I'm like, okay, I like that.
Yeah. I think it's really wonderful seeing them as they were both exhausted and finished.
Like their booty shot.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, because like it could be anything and everything they've ever wanted.
Yes.
Because it's in your mind.
Never issues. You can just be like, nope, this is what I want.
Whatever
it's
you want.
Happen.
Right. It doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
And then there was a little touch. I was like, oh, that's cute, because the actor who plays David, whose name I'm blanking on.
Dan Stevens?
Something. Dan
I'm blanking too.
Is that it? Am I right?
It's close to that.
All right, I may have made that up.
He is Beast in the new Beauty and the Beast. So when they had him playing, I was like, oh, this is a nice little tease for what he sounds like when he sings. Because he plays the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Well, I had my funny realization of watching Downton Abbey, watching Legion, not connecting. It's the same dude at all. And then going back to Downton Abbey, when Matthew looks like total shit and he has like bags under his eyes, I'm like, That's the dude in Legion.
Totally correct.
chameleon.
It is Dan
Yes,
Stevens.
Stevens.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes.
That's why I lead this show.
Then we, Margarita says, I think the parasite tricked him, maybe made a deal with him, like told him that he could help control his powers, but then just took control. I agree with somebody else earlier, I can't find it now, but like it's just like slowly taking more and more,
Right.
which is good. Think of what a parasite would be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the only reason I don't see this agreement, aside from what we saw in the bathtub, which I took as an agreement, we decided we're going to do this together, meaning go and get Amy. I don't see any other agreement because we haven't seen it, and I'd like to believe that we would have gotten to see something that cool.
I think the agreement is because of that. I think the agreement is about D3. So hey, why don't we go and get her? And hey, you can stay here in this room, and in this room you can be with Sid.
Sure.
And so let me show you these things so we can get to D3. But there's always an ulterior motive with Lenny or Benny
Whatever.
or blah, 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 King.
So
creepy.
when Melanie realizes where David was, I was like,
The astral
Sid.
plane. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
job.
she's like, you guys, something's changed.
Yeah. And we hear about Oliver. We get some more info. So David tells her that he's in an ice cube. We also got
And a beat poet.
and a beat poet. And that we now know it's been 21 years.
Yeah.
Which gives us
February.
a time frame, right? Because Oliver was asking about braless women, which
Yes.
gives us the 60s.
Yes.
So 20 years. We're in the 80s?
No, I thought we were in the. It's very. What's that word for time all over the place?
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
That too.
That's all I got.
Let's go with that timey wimey. But no, it's when like you see things that are in the future and the past and they don't
Yes.
belong there.
Yeah.
I can't think of the word, but it starts with an A. If somebody knows in the
chat
chat
will know.
room, let me know.
Yes. What is the word for that,
It's
guys?
but I don't know what time we're in.
Yeah.
And I tried guessing it because it feels like the 70s. But finally I stopped because I was like, I'm being tricked. Like the whole show is tricking me. So
Yeah.
We have a lot of.
but supposedly it's 1977. This is word on the
No,
street.
it's
Oh,
20.
okay.
Oh,
Yes?
someone said 60s to 70s plus 30 years. I'm like, well, they said 21 years, and we felt it was kind of the 60s, especially Braless is timed with like the 60s and the hippies and stuff like that.
Right.
But
I
could
like.
be wrong.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
I don't know why that's in my head.
I mean, it also makes sense. I think the 30 years is the fact that the parasite has been on David for 30 years. I think he's 30 years old.
Yeah, no, I think that was a different thing. Yeah.
So we also discover that Oliver used to be just like David,
Yes.
and that he got stuck.
In the astral plane. Because he could be a god,
anachronistic.
essentially. Thank you, anachronistic.
Thank you.
Sure. It's a word I've heard before.
So someone goes, it's the 80s, which I'm like, no. Seeing outside, I want to go, it's like
It
sci-fi
could be.
60s-ish.
It could be the very early
Their
80s.
hair is so 60s, so it's not
but it
70s.
still could be. People forget that there's a 5-year overlap
That's
of
true.
decades.
Also, they're in hiding,
Yeah.
Yes,
so
true.
they haven't adapted.
Fine.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's one of those, I feel they're not really in our normal timeline,
Yeah.
even though you kind of go, okay, fine, time it with the timeline of comic books. I'm like, I
They
feel the
did that
show is a visual, they're having some artistic freedom
Sure.
with it.
All I gotta say is they did a holographic projection of Carrie
Yes.
talking.
Right.
Oh, that
so
watch
I
thing
have
was
no
so
idea what
cool,
time.
that phone call.
And the monitors at Division
Yes.
3 is fabric sewn
Yeah.
onto
Which
a...
we saw that before, and we were like, what is that?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, Division 3.
Yeah, we saw
Which was
it in
weird.
the first episode, and I lost my mind. Like, I want my TV to be like that. That's just me. And so Melanie asked David if he can bring Oliver home, which is a huge thing, especially for those of us who love Jermaine and want to see him.
I want to see Jermaine Clements. I just want to listen to him. He could say anything, and I'll just be like,
But he can
Oh, yeah,
tell his
opening the
dumb
episode
story about the
Before
bunny.
was so fun, yeah.
I hated it.
God.
Okay, I want to take a moment to thank our fans. But
Yes.
you have something to say in
Oh,
the
another
chat.
one. Saul said the Tommy gun though is that a nod to the timeline. Yeah, I thought that was cool too. I'm
Yeah.
like, we went back to like mobster.
No idea what time this is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey
Yeah.
stuff. Okay. For those who don't know, that's a Doctor Who reference.
It is.
Yeah. We
David
have one
Tennant.
comment in the chat. I'm fighting a sneeze, which is why I look ridiculous right now.
It's okay.
I want to thank everyone so much for joining us. We know this show is super late, and we can't do anything about that. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everyone who's live in the chat. We ask you to do a very simple thing. Go to iTunes, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, rate and review. Bang on your keyboard, write us some words. We will read it live on the air. That is my promise to you. It's very simple. 5 stars mean you like us. 4 stars mean you don't. The other stars, 1 through 3, they don't work.
Count.
They don't work. Just don't even worry about it.
Don't touch them.
Okay, so we have one comment. It is from Zeno50, Chapter 4, 5 stars. Guys, I love the show. Yours. Oh, that's sweet. The more I watch Legion, the more I'm thinking it's set sometime in the early 70s. From what I remember, I was only 4 in the 70s. Great. David keeps asking, what did the stars, or keeps being asked, what did the stars say? Is the yellow demon an alien? That's actually a really interesting question. I kind of like that idea, right? If we're asking what the stars say, and we have this thing, and it's a parasite.
Oh, right.
Cool. Very
Possibly.
cool thought. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Guys, if you want to hear and ladies, and anyone in between, if you want to hear your comment read on the air, go to iTunes, rate, review, subscribe. Okay, let's get back to it. Division 3.
D3.
Oy. Oy. So David comes in and just kills everybody.
And he doesn't
dances
just kill them.
Yes.
He like does an elaborate snap move like West Side Story, and like first like I can't think of the word. It's late. He like stuns them essentially.
Yes.
And then he snaps them, and then he kills them, and then he snaps it again, and they just disappeared.
Annihilated completely.
He at one point jumped up like a little leprechaun.
I was thinking it kind of made me think in The Professional with listening to the music and like walking around and a little bit, and it was very unnerving because I mean anytime it's like death and mayhem and someone's like dancing, you just kind of go, oh, what's wrong with you? He looks at the camera, he's like, what's up?
Yeah, I love when he's at the stairs and he's like, hey guys, dead.
And he's like, phew.
Right?
It's like magic.
And then the legs sticking up out of the ground. I thought that was so cool.
I thought it was great.
Alien Theory, Helena in the chat says, I assumed he was communicating with aliens due to him being so powerful. Good Guy says, a telepathic alien parasite. Yep. And Camilla says, wait, did they ever say, what did the stars say? Nope,
we do not know.
Nope.
And also, this is the first time we've heard a non-Marvel, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show use the term. Actually, this is the first time we've heard a Marvel show or anything use the term mutants.
On TV?
On TV, because Sony actually banned essentially Marvel products from saying mutants.
So
they have a tie-in or something?
Yeah, so Marvel TV universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, I believe.
MCU.
Yep, I'm going to be corrected by a lot of people on this because I'm going to say things I think. ABC, Netflix, those Marvel properties with the shows cannot say mutant. This show, which is directly tied to X-Men, for those who have not somehow caught on to that,
is Sony-based.
Is 20th Century Fox, Sony-based Fox owned, can say mutant. Therefore, you will notice that like Deadpool movie can say mutant, X-Men movies can say mutant, Avengers cannot.
But there's also a weird part with Deadpool as well, where they could not get
they didn't say character names, but then they made fun of it, which was brilliant. Great way to do it. Camilla in the chat.
Yes.
Oh no, sorry. Yes, Camilla said in the chat. Also, when he was dancing, I was weirded out because he danced a little like Oliver. A couple people are saying Oliver is his dad.
Oh, interesting that you think that, and we'll leave that there.
Yeah,
Can't say anything about that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed his dancing. That was fun montage, kind of jumping around, seeing that music. I think was that last episode. I watched 2 today, guys.
You're talking about
which
when Oliver was dancing.
Oliver's
that was last
Oliver
episode.
was not in this episode.
Okay.
Yeah, episode 4.
So someone's comparing that, which I did enjoy that dancing in that episode. And I like that song.
So we end up walking through Division 3. We find Dr. Kissinger.
Dr. Kissinger. I'm doing bunny ears for people listening.
I'm sorry. Who thinks it was the eye from the beginning?
The eye.
Yeah.
100%.
All three
We're
of
all
us.
raising our hands.
I was like, either they're in David's mind and Yellow Devil Dude is messing with them, or this is the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think since everyone else was dead, so was Dr. Kissinger if he was even there to begin with.
Yeah.
And that it was the eye, especially when we see the eye follow them out at the end. And we see Rudy. I want to tell everybody about Rudy, telekinetic guy from chapter 1 that we kept making fun of. Telekinetic guy played by Brad Mann, because he just gonna throw people.
I love those powers. It was like, yes! Like, finally a power.
Well, a shout out to Brad Mann, the actor who's playing. His name is Rudy, everyone. That name has not been said. We just happen to know it. So
Just
Rudy,
happened to pop up on IMDb.
Yeah. Notices in the monitor fabric, the demon with the yellow eyes is physically in the room, killing people the way that David was.
Because they show that camera.
It's like
it's like a thermal imaging
it's
kind
like
of thing.
something where you can see like.
I want to say it's more than that. Like it's some special technology that
Ultraviolet,
recognizes.
no,
Because I'm finally glad that other people see it now.
Yeah.
And then they finally talk about it. Because it's one of those, I'm like, how long is it going to be until somebody else goes, so wait and see it. And
This is the first time we've seen it full bodied.
Yep.
Like we've seen its head
like,
popping up.
From head to toe, what it looks like.
But like the full.
And the way it moves
And it seems like it's grown as well. It seemed like when they first introduced it was like this kind of,
but
and like it's been feeding.
So I thought the same thing, but I maybe it is that it has been feeding on him, and that as he gets more powerful, now that he's not on medication, it's growing. It's also possible that just in the past we've seen it popping out or hiding, and so it was crouched.
But I could have sworn at one point it had the body of like a very short man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought
But
it was a little before too.
Okay.
So Margarita says the dead bodies melted on the floor reminded me of Apocalypse's power in the recent X-Men movie.
Nice. X-Men Apocalypse.
Renji says, to quote a little from Apocalypse, that the parasite is far beyond mutants as they are beyond humans. It is eternal.
Okay. Good to know.
And LaShaw Darlene said, okay, thanks for that, because I couldn't figure out why Dr. Kissinger was so creepy. Yeah, no, I was like, no, that's the dude who can change what he looks like.
Well, because he also, you were pointing out that when she walks away, he calls her a bitch. Yeah. A doctor would do that.
No.
I mean, a doctor might do that, actually.
And that's just not him.
And then a couple people, I want to say, if it's all, thanks for pointing out, which, yes, we do know the Legion connection of the real father, but we just haven't talked to that just yet.
We've mentioned it in the first episode. We will mention it at the end of this episode.
The what?
Who Legion's father is.
Who David's father is.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
I know.
And then Pat Swayze says it wears a human face.
Yes.
And it's like,
perfect. That is exactly the next thing I was going to say.
Yep.
That tells me, right, that the Division 3 people kind of maybe knew what it was once it was revealed to them. Right? The fact that he was like, it wears a human face means he knows that it's not David, that it's something else wearing David.
Now, kind of getting ahead, but a question about that I asked you, and then what your thoughts are. Okay, so if the parasite is powerful and David's powerful, if they get rid of the parasite, will David be less powerful than he is?
So I think what we then learn when Kari calls in to the sky from a watch, he says that it's David is a mutant and has powers.
Yeah.
This parasite has other powers.
Yeah.
But will he lose those powers if you get rid of the
that
parasite?
David must be extremely powerful to even be able to contain this mutant. And my theory is that the mutant. I'm thinking about my words because I don't want to mess anything up.
That the parasite or the mutant?
Just about what I already know from the comics about David. But so if the mutant, the parasite, but Kari did call him a mutant at one point, is a consciousness that's been absorbed by David, which is what Kari has said, then it can be assumed that it has its own powers, but I don't know I think there was one point where I was like, oh, is that its powers? But I can't even remember what that part was. But I think it's more of it's manipulating David's powers because David is a more powerful mutant. Okay. So it's using his powers because his powers are better.
He's thriving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every other mutant we've seen on the show does not have. I mean, they have cool powers, but there's not like I'm gonna destroy the world with this power.
Yeah, I think Kari. I think you Kari.
Yeah.
Took me all the way to right now to figure out that we had a third Kari. You pointed out that it seems to be that Summerland's only fighting team are the Karis. Well, one Kari, not you. Sid, who can kind of fight, but only if she touches you. David, kind of. Patanomy, I have to write it down to say it. And now Rudy.
That's it.
Those are their fighting.
And the other non-power people, I'm like, are they at least training hand-to-hand combat? Because it's like...
No, they all have powers. They probably just have boring powers.
I'm just saying, it's not like Charles Xavier School for mutants. It's not like people flying for the gifted youngsters. It's not people flying through the air and shooting lasers out of their eyes. So I'm like...
But, like, it's a whole location of people with powers. And I'm like, really? It's the same team? We don't know yet.
They have the kid who can change channels by blinking.
They got some Matrix powers in there.
I'm just hoping we see some more, and it's just interesting. I mean, yes, it makes sense. You have your core team, even the X-Men. Like, there's a whole school of them, but there was the core team who went and did stuff. Sure. And it's more complicated if we introduce more and more characters. Of like, or people will be like, oh, we only had a one-off with that person. They never came back. But it's just kind of one of those, like, is anybody else a fighter mutant at this place?
I'm just saying, if the guy... the mutant that was absorbed by David could even be absorbed by David, then David's like Jean Grey, and this dude and him is probably like Cyclops. He's got this one thing he can do.
I see. All right, so once we leave Division 3, we head to rescue Amy in their old house, and we have this great scene with David, air quotes on that, and Amy. I feel like part of it was David trying to push through, but it definitely was...
He did push through at the very last part.
Yeah, there was a shot where it almost looked like he was talking to her, and then there was another version of him, like, on the side, almost having, like, a seizure. So I'm like, he's definitely, like... you know, losing
he's not
control, like trying to grab on.
Yeah, but when we do see that, it's clear that the version talking to him, he's having a seizure. The version talking to him is Lenny.
Yeah.
Lenny comes through to the real world,
which is awesome.
Creepy.
I loved that suit.
But before we get
I want to steal it.
Before we get to, sorry, real quick, I want to make sure we touch on very important, but also I shouted, duh. Amy admits that David was adopted. Duh.
Yes.
I didn't know they were going to go in that direction with it. I thought maybe
like what are secrets?
they had different fathers.
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
okay.
I just knew he wasn't related to her.
Yeah. And they're not full. I didn't think they were full siblings, but yeah.
Also, Amy points out, she mentions, don't you have a new home?
Yes.
Like a team and a headquarters?
Mm-hmm. That was weird and creepy, and I was very suspicious.
I want to make sure it's noted because I feel like she's been turned to the Division 3 side. But you wanted to talk about...
Oh, real quick, the Lenny Benny switch up.
Yep.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, every time we see Lenny, she is wearing semi-masculine outfits that I hadn't really thought much before. I'm like, whatever, she can wear those clothes. It's not weird. But then you go, oh, if that character is technically a guy, that makes sense. So we always see her in masculine. Like, she's never in a dress.
And she only talks about having sex with women.
Yes.
But Lenny was also a lesbian in real life.
Yeah,
They
well, that's why you
don't.
That's why you never think of it as like suspicious.
Right.
But when he said that we can do the circle jerk, and then I'm like, that definitely leads more that like, no, you're a man that like.
That is what I said last week, and I was told that is not necessarily true, and I
think.
Well, I maybe. Yeah.
Oh well, this is
regardless.
My theory.
Sure.
Yes.
Is that I think Lenny, the real Lenny persona, was also absorbed by David. But I think that this parasite is so powerful that anyone that dies around David, if they get absorbed by David, that it just controls their persona and takes on their look, so that it's easier to befriend David.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it's a familiar face
and to hide,
because they talk about how much like now they also reiterate. David, you, well, I think it was the last episode of Oliver. He's like, he hides himself from you.
Right.
Which I'm like, can we go back to Oliver and have more, like, powwows and learn more? Because that's the first person to, like, lay it out for him. And he's like, what are you talking about? And it's like,
what do you think was happening when they arrive at the old house and there's silence? What did you all think?
I think that's an easy way. I mean, that made me think of, oh my gosh, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer
episode.
Hush.
Yes.
Because if no one can hear you scream, then he can separate them easily.
Yep.
And he can take one and manipulate them, and no one else will know. You know, I think it's just a really good way to kind of keep them from helping each other and getting them to separate.
Well, except for when Melanie gets Kari to come out of Kari.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's like, no, I want the other one. No, the other
Kari.
one.
That's so great.
And I definitely want to give a shout out to Ken from Chicago, who's tweeting me about Kari's bat. Yeah, that was a
Love that
cool bat.
Yes.
Yes.
It felt so Kari.
It was. Have you seen that Banksy? There's a Banksy illustration painting, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, graffiti art, of a little boy handing a girl a flower, and behind her she has that bat with the nails. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah.
And then so if it's all said, wait, Lenny is not a real person though. So
So we have gone back and forth on this panel.
Lenny is a real person as far as we know.
Theory is
Dog says Lenny was never real.
Yeah, so the current theory is that Lenny was not ever real. So on this panel at least, the current theory is Benny was real, and now that, as we heard from Dr. Kari, that's what I'm going to call him now, that the memories have been rewritten so that you forget about the demon. So Benny was
Dr.
real.
Who.
Yes. Oh yes, so good. It was the silence.
Like,
so the if Benny was real, the memories were rewritten to be Lenny. And when we get to the hospital, the theory that we have going here in this panel, I believe, is that there was a person who became friends with David that we then, from David's perspective, saw Lenny.
But I hear you. But I also know that Sid saw Lenny.
Where?
Before she swapped bodies with David.
Right, but we believe that what she saw may not have been the Lenny that we saw. Just there was a being. Everyone
else was also saying Lenny's body was in the wall, and like multiple people.
So maybe it was someone named Lenny.
Maybe. Then a couple people. So the silence. Did we think they were deaf and mute? I think they were both. Like there was no auditory sound at all because it's like they couldn't even hear a door switch.
I think
and you couldn't talk.
I think that sound was removed so that they may have been speaking, but no one could hear it.
It seemed like a bubble because the moment she walked through it, she can.
Oh, Marguerite said maybe David projected Lenny into people's memories without knowing it was because the devil guy was doing it.
Well, I have a huge theory about the entire show, but
okay.
So, speaking of huge theories about the entire show, Oh wait, I don't want to spoil. If it's a spoiler, I don't know. So at the end of this whole sequence, the eye has taken over Rudy. We see that in his glitching. The eye takes over Rudy, brings up...
Does he take over him? He just takes on
his body. Yeah. He looks like Rudy. And he goes to shoot David, but he is saved. Yes?
Can he only take people's bodies if he kills them?
I don't think so.
Wait, the eye?
I think he can look like someone. We don't know, actually. We're not sure.
Only because I've never seen him how he does it, and I always assume that
I've always seen him come out of it, not go in it.
I'm going to assume no based on the promo for next week, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No. At the end of the episode, we see who's in the room, and we see both Rudy and the eye.
I think... Okay. I don't think he kills them.
I don't think he has to kill them.
Yeah.
And so we get escaped to the White Room, and... the demon is there, real creepy.
There's
seeing
something
him in that
about
light is even scarier.
The makeup that they chose to do, and it reminded me of something from my childhood. So it scared me even more.
Yeah,
I'm a grown woman. Obviously, I don't show any feelings on the outside, but on the inside, I was like, this is unnerving. This reminds me of something from childhood, and I'm very uncomfortable.
Very scary.
Back to your thought about Lenny. Dog says Sid only mentions Lenny after she switches bodies with David.
Oh.
I thought she mentioned him.
It's hard.
I don't know.
I liked how they did a little more practical effects look on the parasite. I'm gonna like parasite's an easier way to.
The demon.
Like the thing. Because the demon explains more of a. Would make me think more of a speech. Anyway, the creepy thing. Because before he was so green and obviously computer that it was creepy and weird, but it wasn't so like tangible. But this felt like a person.
You felt like
and,
he was
makeup.
a computer?
Before, like when you saw the smaller thing, when it was smaller.
I
thought they
disagree.
toyed back and forth with it. I thought
Well,
it was
this
mainly
felt far
practical.
more practical.
Oh, well, it's
this
full
was
practical,
like,
yeah.
whoa.
It's a full person
which-
with like
so
a...
So it had
Any
more
question-
of an impact. But then there's like the creepy when she fell in the bed. That I'm like, oh, this is gonna get real kind of rapey moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
So the question I have, who do you think? Because I guess I'll say predictions. Ugh,
Well-
I think I know who's in the bat suit.
Oh,
You mean the actor, or you mean
I
like...
think
oh, okay.
I want to say I think it might be Dan
Jermaine?
Stevens.
Oh, it might be Dan.
Yeah, like it might
Wait,
be
who?
David being the demon as well.
Oh, interesting.
I'll hold
what
on to that
about,
thought.
Wait, the
Yeah,
thing we
we
haven't
should-
talked about at all is the creepy kid mask head
So
thing.
okay, so
From the story. It's
yeah, so Lenny
Yes.
tells us.
The
right?
angriest boy.
Yeah, so Lenny tells us that Lenny is King, is Benny,
Yes.
is the angry boy,
Yeah.
and is the devil with the blue eyes, the green eyes.
Yellow.
Yellow.
eyes.
Yellow. I'm tired.
Is
Sorry, guys.
she, though? Because that's the one face she did not show.
That is not correct. That is the one face she did not show. But I took to understand that she is the parasite.
Me too. But
Yeah.
So-
that was just something that
Oh,
I
the
noted.
creepy
point.
sucking face when he's on the ground.
When
That
she
was
starts-
the sound effects on that. I'm just like, I'm gonna hurl.
She starts shoving his tongue down his throat.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was not kissing. That was sucking face.
Yeah, that
It
was...
wasn't
I
even
just-
sucking. It was,
That
it was
was
just
molesting.
probing.
But the angriest boy felt weird because also Sid sees the face and the body out in other places,
Right.
and I don't know if that's remnants from being with David in his head or switching with him.
Right.
So it's like
I think it's a
wonder if
remnant
there's-
from switching with him.
switching. Yeah.
I think
But then
now
is he
that,
really there when she sees him?
Well, so I think now that everyone can see the parasite's forms,
Yeah.
I think that now they will also see the angry boy.
I hope they do too, because they also need to be like, hey, there's this other thing too.
Yeah. So
Are you seeing it?
before we got to talk
good
about
question.
the ending. Yeah.
Well, this is part of the ending. Renji, did jumping in the White Room actually save Sid from getting shot?
Excellent question.
Yeah, I didn't know about
because
that.
we're not really like, from what we understand, their bodies are still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think unless he can physically somehow, because we have seen him teleport,
take the whole body
with him in this type of
Well,
this
they're-
thing of need.
The moment they walk into that house, they're in David's world. So the eye can shoot whatever he wants, but I'm sure David was just like, these will not hurt
And
me.
nope. Yeah.
Now,
or her.
did you guys notice that when the demon thing was walking around, David never could actually like turn and look at
Look at
it,
him.
even though
Yeah.
Sid was like in trouble behind him. He couldn't be like,
You can, yeah. And there was a
So-
weird moment where like the bullets, maybe I'm crazy.
and they were like in
the
slow-mo.
bullets went out.
Yeah.
But they just, because you could
Like, they
see
stopped,
them.
yeah?
And it was like they just didn't go anywhere. And she jumped in
I
front of him.
noticed that.
But there was no impact of anything anywhere.
I think
Yeah.
time froze.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
So once we escape the White Room, we make it to Clockworks.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is back. The entire everyone is in Clockworks.
Even people who weren't at Clockworks to begin with.
Right. Melanie is there. The Eye is
Autonomy's
there.
there.
Yeah. And our doctor is Lenny, looking so hot.
Man.
What
Good
a
hair.
point. The makeup. Whew.
Everything they did with what's her face?
Aubrey
that
Plaza.
actress?
Aubrey Plaza this episode, I was like, she looking good. Like,
Yes.
who's doing her makeup and her costuming?
Yeah. So let's talk about something that I'm gonna put up a spoiler warning right here,
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
because I don't want to upset anyone,
Yeah.
but it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yes.
A lot of people last week were tweeting at us that the dog king, that the
Yeah.
demon devil, whatever, is the Shadow King. So the Shadow King from the comics is from the Muir Island saga. It is an ancient psychic evil, a parasite perhaps, that possesses people. And so if you take that knowledge with what we've learned about it, which is that it rewrites your memories once you've seen him, kind of like the silence from Doctor Who, and that Lenny is the king and Benny and the angry boy, I think we basically have it. We have it. This is what it is, guys. It's the Shadow King.
A lot of people in the chat have been saying Shadow King.
Yes.
We're in spoilers.
We're
though.
in
I think
spoiler zone,
it's
say
more
what you
than
want.
that because when you understand who David is and who his father is, which I will
Yes.
not say at
No,
this
we're
point.
saying it. We're doing it. We've given a
I
spoiler
don't
alert.
want to say who the father is.
We've already said that his father is Charles Xavier.
When you realize that his father is Charles Xavier, and then you also understand that all of his powers are separate. So he does have split personalities, and every single personality has a different power. Then I feel like if it's a Shadow King, then it's the Shadow King coming in and manipulating all those personalities. And that, like, one of the bigger aspects of David's power is his ability to absorb other people.
Yes.
So there's so many things that they're toying with, to the point where my big theory of the entire thing, so when they brought it back to this moment at Clockworks, I was like, well, that just blows up my entire theory, was that none of anything that we've seen so far is real. That everything we're dealing with is basically the work of David's mind, and that we could be in his mind, or it could be him like altering the world around him, so that we're not even actually in the 70s. That was like a big theory of mine.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm not sure if it can happen anymore, because now they've kind of done that in reverse.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Legion sometimes wasn't a good guy.
Legion was mainly a bad dude.
So, like, I'm watching this episode, and he's going around killing people and, like, enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, what if the entire season is leading up to he's the bad guy?
Yeah.
Because I like that too.
There was a big thing as well, and when we see like childlike David, is that all of his personalities are really horrible people, and they don't do anything good with their powers. And the strongest mutant is David, but he's like been so damaged and so afraid that he just does not ever come out. And the only person that can control all of them is him, but he's just too terrified to do anything. So even main David's not actual David.
So we know that...
and then
yes.
I think you kind of said this, the fact that the dog is king, so Shadow King.
That
Did
was
you just say that? Okay.
That was pointed out last week by the fans. I cannot take credit for that.
So thank you, guys. And then I like this. Camilla said, OMG, I think David's mom is the woman that Xavier made forget him. And remember in Apocalypse when he sees the reporter again and he made her forget him, that they had been together?
That is actually,
I
think,
like
partly
that theory.
true.
No, his mom
Was it a reporter?
No.
Well, I'm not
his
saying
mom.
it is. This person was just like, oh, maybe it's the woman, and I think
that
you
they're
mean from
connecting it.
Apocalypse. Yeah.
Interesting.
I like the theory.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Has Apocalypse been erased by Logan? Nobody answer that. I've not seen Logan. I've not seen Apocalypse.
Oh.
It was just a thing that I threw out there.
Don't
in the
worry.
World. Okay.
I
still gotta go see Logan.
Yes, you do. Everyone go see Logan. Also, oh man.
Okay, there you go.
Yes.
Some Vital said Legion has mini story arcs where he is a hero or a villain.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Depends on what.
yeah.
What
And
comic book
Ryan
you're reading.
said he's an anti-hero, so I
Yeah,
love
he's
it everything.
mainly listed as an anti-hero.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Legion and David not only have different personalities with different powers, but they can be physically out of him at the same time. So like he not only can change his appearance, but he can also
They can like manifest in him and change his appearance.
but they can also manifest as a secondary person, right?
I don't know about that. I haven't heard
So
that.
from what I believe, and please correct me, David, Lenny, let's say, for example, could be another David who has different powers and is a different being, but is actually David.
Because if Lenny is a separate personality, then
Yes.
then Lenny could essentially manifest outside of David and still be David because
The way
she
that
is a
Kari and
manifestation
Kari
of
exist,
his personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I think that's also probably why how the Carries probably figured it out the fastest. Of like, well, duh, and they like I like the moment trying to explain that, and Carrie's like, "This is what I live with. Like, don't you understand what
Yeah.
this means?"
What a
So, yeah.
great episode. I think we need to head into predictions because we are running out of time.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So, in the promo for next week, what we see is that everyone is in Clockworks, and Sid notices that there is a door that appears and disappears, and David, I think, starts to figure out what's happening, but also is wondering what Dr. Lenny is doing to Sid. Predict.
Okay.
We're
So I
there.
actually think
Do it.
that David knows that none of this is real. He's too afraid of Lenny or / Yellow Eye Double to do anything about it.
Oh.
And so he plays along, but whenever he has private sessions with Lenny, it's basically like him asking her not to do anything to these people and her like torturing the crap out of them.
Okay.
Because I don't think David realizes that all those powers are his. I think he thinks that he's being possessed by this person that has all this power, and he doesn't.
Good predictions.
I agree. I do think we'll find out this is in his head. And Sid, maybe because she's had the connection with him, is the one who's able to start noticing like things are wrong. And then hopefully his love for her will make him go against Lenny.
Okay.
Because that's been the only like, I mean, it's they fell for each other really fast, but I'm okay with that too. Of I'm like,
Yeah.
all right,
Sure.
But
That's
seems
also
to,
what makes me think that all this stuff ain't real. I'm cynical.
But it's a nice driving force for him. Like that's when he's like killed people and like really gone somewhere for his love for her. So I'm hoping this place, when like he sees she's in danger, he's like, I'm gonna break out of it.
Okay. Great predictions, everybody. I think that this new reality we're in is David and Sid trapped inside the White Room, inside another like layer, and so they need to escape from clockworks in his brain to get to the White Room in his brain
But
to
all
get
of them
back
are in
to
there, right? I don't think it's just him and Sid. I think he's taken everyone in.
I think they're all there,
which is
too.
why everyone that was in the house is on clockworks, including the eye. Why would the eye be there?
I don't. Excellent question. Because I was about to be like, I don't think that they all brought in. I think they're just seeing people they recognize. But why would the eye be there? That's a good point.
A couple people, Margarita says, yes, Clockwork is a safe space, and it's him delaying the inevitable. He knows he can't find them out, but Sid is probably the only person he can trust each other enough to step him back to reality.
Okay. These are all really great
Love it,
predictions.
guys.
You know what I love about this show? The episode ends and I go, I don't know what I just watched. But
I know, I'm gonna go home and watch it.
love it.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We apologize again for the late hour, but again, we can't do anything about it. So until next week, why don't you tell people where they can find you, Adrian?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. You can also catch both of us on the Magicians Podcast at 9 o'clock on Wednesday nights as well.
Yes.
Thanks
and-
for joining us.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you for having
me.
us. Yay.
Yeah. Carrie?
Sorry, I thought you were going to say another thing.
Oh, and Unproduced Table Read on Fridays on Popcorn Talk.
Wonderful.
Yes. You guys can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's KaridLane.
And other shows you do here?
Yes, I can do I'm like, hold
I
on,
can
get my
do.
list. Box office breakdown on Sundays, where we talk about what movies came out over the weekend, and I did see Logan, so we'll be talking about that. Then Time After Time, which will be moving to Mondays now. This week it's at 5, next week's following it's going to be at 6. Wednesdays is The Magicians, and Thursdays is The Expanse.
Awesome. And I'm Yael Tygiel. I'm everywhere at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. I'm also on Grimm for the final season. Switched at Birth for the final season. Law & Order Special Victims Unit, which will be back at some point this month. And Gay Weekly Roundtable, which is a show we do here. Yep. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See ya!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.